Join the OurGame Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material. There are so many options for the goalkeeper. That's one of the big things that comes straight out of this. Because, like in some seasons, you'd say, look at the way that Owen Murphy has been playing. But then you'd say, look at the way Nicky Quaid's going. And Patrick Collins, sometimes in the first game out against Limerick, maybe it didn't fully go his way. But he's also been excellent. So, God, how do you try and narrow this one down?
It's an awkward one, Shane. The one thing I will say is that aside from the Jamie Barron shot that actually hit off Quaid's head, Quaid's saves are a lot more measured. The players aren't getting in around him; they're not getting right in on top of him. Austin Gleeson was forcing shots from 20 yards out, as were a few others. His puckouts are obviously very good, and he's so controlled on the ball. Alan Nolan, I think, has been absolutely brilliant. There's a distinct possibility that Alan Nolan could get pushed out even for an All-Star nomination, that he mightn't get one, just based on Collins, based on Murphy, and based on Quaid, which would be probably an injustice for what he's done this year. I think he's been brilliant as well. But it's Owen Murphy for me, Shane, on the basis of just pulling off saves that are 90% in the favour of the attacker, just spreading himself crazily. The performance against Cork wasn't too far behind, or might have been right up there with that Limerick performance in the quarterfinal in 2018. And he was on a different level for me. It's probably Owen Murphy, closely followed by Nicky Quaid for me.
Yeah, Conor McSweeney says it has to be Pat Collins. Joe Murray says Quaid puckouts are much more accurate versus Murphy. Great saves and shot stopping. Let me just see here. Before Cork's Munster Championship versus Limerick, I backed Cork at 9-1 each way for the All-Ireland. My 12-year-old daughter said I was a fool. Says Raymond Gilbert. Now, Raymond, to be fair, I've been kind of pushing Cork stocks all year, so I'm with you on that one.
He hasn't backed each way as well, so even if they lose the final, he's already getting paid out.
I can't remember. This is my mother commenting here now. No, Shane, he licks them until they vanish. I don't actually know what we're referring to there.
That could be taken in any context, to be honest with you.
My mother's always trying to have an old go at me there. She's a similar character to myself in some ways. Murphy's puckouts against Cork were very poor at stages. If Quaid pulls off a massive performance in the final, it's 50-50 for me. But on shot stopping, it's Murphy hands down. I'd be like you. I'd give it to Murphy just at the moment. So we'll stick him in there. People get the comments in.
I think, Shane, as well, it's a lot of, a lot of the time I think the instruction is to go along for Owen Murphy. And I think they're kind of traditional in that way, but he was absolutely outrageous against Cork, and even I know he got the line against he got the line for 10 minutes against Wexford, but he was brilliant that day as well.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. So the full back line now. Is there anyone that's absolutely screaming out in the full back line? I think Robert Downey's really stepped up in the last few games. Sean O'Donoghue, Dan Morrissey. I mean, take your pick. There's so many options here. Hugh Lawler's had a couple of good games. Tommy Walsh has done okay. What do you think? Is there anyone that can't not be picked here?
Dan Morrissey will be in pole position for an All-Star if Limerick win. But I don't know. Can we put him in based on a game and a half's hurling at the moment? He came on obviously against Tipperary and was very good. He was very good. I thought he negated Austin Gleeson against Waterford as well. I'm not sure if we can put him in full back based on a game and a half. That's not to say, do I think he will be the full back All-Star? I do, but not right now.
Yeah, okay. My mother has clarified. It was the toffee pops she was referring to. So thanks very much for that, Mother. I'll be down the weekend. I'll be looking for them to be served up to me, and some of the homemade apple tarts as well. So, right. Who are we nudging towards here? I think Sean O'Donoghue, the first day, he did very, very well against Aaron Gillan. I think that's a huge thing that he can do that well against such a star player. And I think he's been pretty good in every game since. He was, especially as the game went on against Kilkenny, he rose higher and higher. So for me, I think Sean O'Donoghue is in here.
Yeah, to me, it's between Sean O'Donoghue, Sean Finn, and Cathal Barrett for 3 cornerback spots at the moment. That's my own opinion. Yeah. To be honest with you, sorry. The most underrated hurler in the game needs to come into the mix as well, and that's Barry Nash, who just goes about his business so quietly and so effectively, gets very little plaudits. But to me, he has to come into the mix as well.
Well, while I do recognise what you're saying there, I think he's been turned over on the ball a few times when he's bringing it out. Now, they do play a really high-risk sort of a game, so maybe that just comes with the territory and the management, accept that that's going to happen. But, like, I don't know if I'd have him, like, I think he's really good and he's had an excellent season, but I don't necessarily think I'd be putting him ahead of Sean Finn. I think Sean Finn is probably still number one in terms of the full back line.
So you've just put Sean Finn in there, like you've made that decision. There's no team or conversation in this.
Well, I can press the delete button if you make a very, very good, compelling argument on it. But is there anyone we're missing out on here, people?
How,
from like Wexford, Galway?
How have you not made a more compelling case for Cathal Barrett? Like people, I'd say, are dumbfounded looking at 2 and 4 and to see that he actually haven't got him in there.
No, look, you know how highly I rate Cathal Barrett, but I just think in the conversation, given how far these teams have gone, what Sean O'Donoghue has done in his games, what Sean Finn continues to do, and look, the ball is going in a bit more 50-50 against this Limerick defence. There's no doubt about it, and the Tipperary defence was a little bit wide open in some games, but I just think in the heel of the hunt, Sean Finn wins an awful lot of ball against the head. He snuffs out an awful lot of very good attackers. I'm not saying he's kept clean sheets every day against his man. Even Jack O'Connor got a point or two off him the first day out. But in the heel of the hunt, I think you just have to kind of give it to him, don't you?
No, I won't disagree. Just on the fullbacks, Owen O'Donnell was brilliant against Antrim. And he was brilliant against Galway. He doesn't have enough time. He doesn't have enough game time under his belt.
Injury has ruined him.
Injury has.
Paddy Smith's been very good.
Paddy Smith deserves a mention in fairness as well.
He really tied up TJ Reid very well in that Leinster final. When you consider how weakened they were, Owen O'Donnell going off, Cian O'Callaghan not being available to play, you'd have to really credit his performance.
Dan Morrissey, I don't think has enough game time under his belt yet. I do think he could possibly end up as the fullback all-star. But for me, it's Conor Prunty fullback for me, Shane.
Yeah, you took the words right out.
I thought he was brilliant against Galland last day. And I think anybody that looks at the Limerick game with the blinkers of, Galland got the goal or anything like that, that's ridiculous to me, to be honest with you. To me, Prunty totally dominated that exchange. And when they played Tipperary as well, like fair enough, Callan got the first goal on a plate for him. The second goal was a mistake by Prunty, and I don't think he made another mistake thereafter.
Yeah, and I think it's key to mention here that we're not going to pick three quarterbacks there, because that is a bit of a cop-out. Dan Morrissey was in serious trouble when Waterford went Route 1. How you miss Stapo, your son is a sound lad.
Jeez, Will, you're in the minority there.
It's come for full back, but it's Finn and O'Donoghue. A lot of people going for Finn and O'Donoghue. Rob Downey, I think he really stepped up in that semi-final, and you can't ignore that. He was very good against Dublin after initially being shaky. Hugh Lawler maybe depends, and Liam doesn't. A few commas and full stops there. Jack can't fully make out.
He wasn't. Hugh Lawler was having a very good season, I'd say, before the Cork game. And it's not that he was like bad against Cork, but when Cork were struggling, Patrick Horgan, his direct opponent, was the one who really was doing the damage. Someone commented in there about Niall O'Leary. Yeah, brilliant. He got forward for a point the last day, and will come even more into the reckoning were he to snuff out a Casey or were he to snuff out a Flanagan or a Gallan in the final. There's a lot, like, how much do you think that full back line could change? A lot. The full back slot could change, and potentially one of the cornerbacks based on the All-Ireland final. But you're picking what we've looked at so far, and I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah, no, I think very good. I'm happy enough with that also. A lot of people backing Conor Prunty here. Shane in the heel of the hunt, Stapleton.
He loves that one.
Yeah. I do indeed. I think you've a few of your own buzz sayings. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
Wangled is definitely one. You've managed to wangle it in there somehow.
Sheedy has lost the head. Stupid clapping on the sideline this season. Stuck with his buddies on the team too long. They cost him. That's why Cody is still there. No friends on the team. Mahoney, Walsh and Hayes in the half back line. Now, this is a very, very interesting one. So we've got so many very good contenders for this. Caleb Lyons has had yet another brilliant season. I think Kieran Bennett's been very good. Been thrown in there wing back. He's taken it to it like a duck to water. Kyle Hayes, obviously that wonder goal puts him up there. Diarmaid Burns, you could argue, has been such a key man back there. Declan Hannon, Tim O'Mahony, Ger Millerick. We're massive fans. And just an update, Ger Millerick hopes to play some sort of some sort of part in the All-Ireland final, and he is a massive player. By the way, let's mention a couple of Clare lads here. I think Conor Cleary, Rory Hayes, Eibhear Quilligan's had a couple of good moments. Maybe that mistake for the Seamus Callanan goal will cost him. Diarmuid Ryan has been really good. John Conlon also. I'd love to know if people think that there's any Wexford players that should be in the conversation here.
Rory O'Connor, I'd say, would come into could have come into the conversation if they'd gotten a bit farther. But it's very hard to justify in the back of, what is it? They played 3 games. 3 games. Very hard to justify it in the back of 3 games, one of which was a hammering against Laois,
Yeah. Do you see Pádraig Walsh getting the number 6 slot here? I'd say, we know how good he is. We've talked about that for so long, but I wouldn't say that there's quite enough evidence to have him in this one. Would you be inclined towards Tim O'Mahony to be the wing back slot here? I think of all the candidates, I think he's number 1 as an all-star as a wing back this year, and I'm including Kyle Hayes in that.
Yeah, your centre back one, if you're looking at it, Shane Bennett is obviously a makeshift centre back. I don't think he's in the equation. Declan Hannon is always going to be in the equation. I don't think he's been, he's not going to be unbelievably influential, but he's going to continue to go about his business really, really solidly and rarely makes mistakes. Was obviously potentially out of position or caught for the 2 goals against Tipperary. There's 2 centre backs of the All-Ireland semi-finalists. Tipperary, I don't think of anyone in the equation there. I think Pádraig Walsh has been the best centre back we've seen so far this year. Can you tell me who you're going to put in centre back if you're not putting him in?
Well, the candidates to me are Mark Coleman, Declan Hannon. I just think Kilkenny in the Leinster Championship. Okay, Pádraig Walsh, he's an excellent player. Was he brilliant against Wexford? And then against Dublin, that game was so skewed because of COVID and injury that it's very hard to know how to read into that game. And then they lose the All-Ireland semi-final against Cork. And he was decent, but I wouldn't say he dominated the game. And you compare that to Declan Hannon and Mark Coleman and maybe even Shane Bennett to some degree. I mean, Bennett's, the semi-final didn't go his way at all. Maybe he wasn't brilliant against Laois, but he had a couple of big games against Tipperary and Galway, which might put him a bit further up the conversation. Tommy Doyle has been good for Westmeath. You'd have to mention him. Tipperary, yeah, I kind of agree with you. There's nobody really in that backline that you'd be mentioning. I don't think anyone in Galway. I don't think Pádraig Mannion had his greatest season. Dahi Burke, Aidan Hart, probably not. Yeah, I think I'd be leaning more towards Mark Coleman here.
To be honest with you, Mark Coleman was someone who had kind of slipped over my head. And I was trying to find who the other outstanding candidates were. It would come down to Walsh and Coleman for me, and I would probably tip the scales to Coleman. I think he's been consistently very good throughout league and championship. And obviously he has another game to go on and probably cement that. Pádraig Walsh, in some people's minds, might be kind of hanging on at the moment. But Coleman, Coleman's been very, very good, in fairness.
Yeah, one of your phrases, Michael, just on that, Shane Verney. Yeah, that's a very fair one. And then the other wing back slot, it almost feels like by default you're going to say Kyle Hayes. He's been very good, brilliant with the ball, driving forward, and he's an absolute nightmare. And the opposition have to plan directly for him. But he does get turned over an awful lot. And that is kind of just par for the course when you're trying to play that game and move the ball out of the back. He has scored 2 brilliant goals, the one against Tipperary, also the one against Cork. Both of them kind of broke open the game a little bit in Limerick's favour. But has he done better than Diarmuid Byrnes this year?
I would say he probably has. I thought he was brilliant defensively last day. Whatever about getting forward, I thought he was brilliant defensively last day. He got in that flick on Patrick Curran near the end of the game to deny a goal scoring opportunity. And I was looking at him on Jack Fagan, and Fagan, who is a bit of a physical kind of freak as well, an absolute workhorse, just couldn't handle him. He just couldn't handle him. And I think it's Hayes probably for me at the moment. I thought Burns was decent the last day and has been good all season. But Hayes has had a bit of a highlight reel, both defensively and offensively this season. I think he'd be hard pressed. Just one of the viewers said there about Declan Hannon, he just goes about his business so efficiently and effectively. I can't even remember the last time he hit away the ball. I genuinely can't remember the last time he gave away possession. But I would probably be leaning towards Mark Coleman in the centre and Hayes on the wing.
Yeah, that's pretty outstanding half backline. Tim O'Mahony, Mark Coleman and Kyle Hayes. I would have to give a special mention to Jerry Millerick. I think he's been absolutely brilliant.
In a different type of a role as well, Shane, completely. In a more kind of a stopper type of a role.
Yeah, Niall Heflin says, Shane, watch the semi-final again. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he was a monster defensively and gave some brilliant balls into the forest. That is true, the cross-field ball, he did that very well. I watched the game 3 times, so I'm not just kind of saying that off the top of my head and just hoping for the best with the comment.
His diagonal ball into the forward, like how many times does he deliver a ball into space diagonally that takes out a sweeper and is just in the lap of Flanagan or Gallan? He does it time and time again.
Tim O'Mahony actually does the same ball a lot too, and it's. But Jerry Millerick, I think he should be in this conversation. Jared Pickering Jr., I think Pádraig Walsh plays with the most confidence in himself than 99% of the top hurlers, and he seldom wastes the ball or makes mistakes. Yeah, he's an absolutely brilliant player, no question about it. Now, moving on to midfield, please do keep getting your comments in. There's probably people out there who don't agree with our selections in the back line there. And
I tell you what, Shane, it'd be hard-pressed enough to disagree with much of that 7 now at the moment.
Yeah, but there's definitely people out there who will disagree with either the points we're making or with 1 or 2 of those. Like there are a couple, I'm in the full back line there. I haven't got any Tipperary players in there as much as I'd love to, but maybe someone out there from Tip would step up and give us a good reason why we should. Eugene Lanigan, Jamie Barron definitely in midfield, probably Darren Fitzgibbon as well. Dara Fitzgibbon, I should say. Jamie Barron and Willow Donahue in midfield, and Michael O'Callaghan, Willow Donahue assert. So would you go along with that? Like, you obviously do pump the Willow Donahue narrative a nice bit, as do I. Like, he's an excellent player, so we can understand why.
He's the enforcer, Shane. He's the enforcer. He does, in a more understated version, he does, I think, to me, he does what Michael Fennelly did for Kilkenny for years. He gets in that big hits, he turns over, big ball. He always does the right thing in possession. I think he had another 8 out of 10 the last day against Waterford. It's funny, like, whatever it is, Jamie Barron just cannot seem to have an influence on the game around the middle of the field when Willow Donahue is there. Even the last day, forget exactly what he did. Did he have a goal chance? Or no, he missed a really good point scoring chance just before half time at the last day. And then a minute later, he gets the ball out around the middle of the field and rifles it over from 70 yards. He's like my number 1 on the Limerick team sheet every day. And I think his form is as good, if not better, than last year. So he's definitely in for me.
Yeah, I think I'd agree as well. Willow Donahue jumping in there at midfield. He has been, he's just a bit of an enforcer in midfield. And I think a lot of the Limerick players have had like up and down within games. And, O'Donoghue wouldn't be any different to the rest of that because, they struggled at times against Tipperary. Watford had them at the back foot at times. And so did Cork the first day out. But in the heel of the hunt, he's definitely, there I go with the heel of the hunt again. he definitely would be in there. Darren Fitzgibbon scored a point the last day against Kilkenny, but he was taken off before being brought back on. I definitely am a big fan of Luke Mead. I think he's been very good. I don't think there's anyone from Tipperary or Kilkenny in this conversation. I don't think there's anyone from Wexford. I'm even looking at Galway. They were very poor all year. I think Peter Hogan was very good in the last few games for Watford. He certainly deserves a mention.
Very quiet against
Robbie Greville for Westmeath, I think, has been very good. And please get the comments in if there's any counties you feel that we're underserving here. Cathal Malone gets a mention.
Cathal Malone, wait till we get to number 10 or 12 for Cathal Malone.
Yeah, he does play around midfield though.
Yeah.
To be fair, an awful lot. Now he moves into the forward line, takes shots as well. Barron was anonymous versus Limerick again, almost had the Indian sign him. Like, I was interested to see him move in full forward, that they did try something different, and he was definitely having an impact in there. His does a lot of defensive work too, so quick getting back and putting shoulders and flicks in, that he is. Paddy Purcell, very good for Leeds this year. Yeah, precise comments with the Bruno Fernandes avatar, says Luke Mead. Yeah, we've been talking about him. More support from Brian Timmins for Willow Donahue. Kyle Hayes is a real good sort of a man. Skill, power, strength, defending and attacking. Cathal Malone were to mention. Luke Mead, of course, has been mentioned yet again. And Jamie Barron definitely has to be in there. Are we going to go for Jamie Barron, do you reckon?
Yeah, Barron was obviously brilliant against Galway. He didn't play the first day. He played 10 minutes against Laois. He was brilliant against Galway. He was brilliant against Tip. He was quiet against Limerick at midfield, but I still give him a 7 out of 10 rating size because I think he tried very hard and went inside and was very dangerous. I'd be hard pressed to put someone ahead of him at the moment. Now, someone could play their way ahead of him in the final, But at the moment, I'd say he's probably still pole position for that second slot in midfield.
A point that's worth making is that Darragh Fitzgibbon has actually he's wearing number 8, but he's been playing wing forward a nice bit. So if you were going to pick a midfielder for Cork, you'd probably be looking between Luke Mead and Conor Cahalane. And I'd be pumping hard for Conor Cahalane here, only I think there at times against Kilkenny, like the second half didn't really go his way. But I think overall he's had a really good season, and he's somebody that Cork will be leaning on for years to come. Darragh O'Donovan is mentioned by Pádraig Crone, and Jamie Barron seemed to outplay most midfielders all year. 2 workhorses. Willow Donahue maybe ahead of Darragh Fitzgibbon. Conor Burke, Dublin. Yeah, Conor Burke was very, very good at times, but just things came apart a little bit for Dublin. So it's going to be difficult to bring those players in.
Just on that, Shane, as well, sorry, and I'll go back to my saying again, just on that. Darragh O'Donovan probably had his best game for Limerick since probably 2018, I'd say, in the semi-final last day. But I'm still a bit mystified how he got man of the match. He was quietly effective, but there were 4 or 5 probably Limerick players that were better than last day. But just does deserve to be mentioned. Like, if he's a big final, he probably comes into the equation as well.
Yeah, so who are you voting for here?
I go for Jamie Barron, Shane.
Yeah, I think Jamie Barron as well. And I do kind of want to push the line of Luke Mead. Jesus, I typed in James Mead there because I was getting a little bit kind of caught between the two of them. But yeah, I'm happy to go with Jamie Barron and Willow Donahue at midfield. So now we're going to go to the half-hour line. Keep the comments coming in terms of any lines of the field, really. We're happy to discuss your thoughts. And if you can give us a specific reason why, that might give us a talking point as well. Half-forward line here. Is there? Will I just type in Tom Morrissey's name and less of the messing?
You can type in Tom Morrissey's name, and you can type in Cotton Malone's name as well.
And can I type in Cian Lynch's name?
Yeah, probably can, to be fair, yeah.
So you've decided that's the half-forward line?
Well, I think... Cotton Malone had an absolutely outrageous championship.
He was excellent.
He was just so consistent throughout all the games. He got that brilliant goal against Wexford. I think he had 1-3 against Wexford. Like, he was getting a handful of scores in most games.
Yeah, he got 2 against Tipperary.
Yeah, while being back in the full back line at different stages as well. And he was able to step up if Tony Kelly was a bit quiet. And I just think he probably was nearly maligned in some quarters a couple of years ago. Definitely deserved his nomination last year. And I think at this moment in time, he's in pole position for an All-Star. Now, somebody could play him out of that position, but I think he's been absolutely outstanding for Clare.
Yeah, so comments coming in here. Patrick Hickey says Lynch, Malone and Morrissey, so which that goes along with you. Then next comment in, thanks lads, great insight, looking forward to a decent final, all the best. Owen says Jason Postman Ford, he always delivers. Now, he has gotten a nice few scores on the board, especially that first half. Look, basically, I want to do like, did you ever see that movie Men in Black, where they sort of do the memory wipe thing? They just press the thing and it just wipes your memory. At half-time at the Limerick game, I just want to do that and just pretend that the first half is all that happened. But he was unbelievable in that first half. Was it 6 or 7 from play? Like, he has been very good. And I'm just even looking at the game against Clare. He got a few from play here. He scored a nice goal from a penalty. So, you can't ignore the fact that he has been stepping up and getting plenty of scores. Yeah,
no, he's brilliant. He's brilliant, particularly in that half an hour. We talked about it. It wasn't like that he went quiet. It was just the whole tip team went quiet and Limerick took over. It's not as if he totally went out of the game, but he was just no tip player was able to have an influence in that last 40 minutes. I think he's just getting edged out. While the good was really, really good, we just probably didn't see enough of it. Whereas someone like Cotton Malone was brilliant the whole way through.
Yeah, a couple of people have mentioned Seamus Harnedy, and a lot of people mentioned Jason Ford there. Aaron says Casey, Ozzy and Hoggy in the full forward line. Coleman will be for centre back. Pádraig Crone says Tony Kelly, Cian Lynch and Tom Morrissey. Question, is there anyone who's had a distinctly average year that could come into contention for All-Star with a blowout final appearance, or should it be as based on the whole season? Well, look, the final could go to a replay. You never know, and you could end up, Gleeson, Flanagan and O'Connor inside, Hoggy unlucky, even though Shane will end up picking Callan.
Not this time.
Shane, we won't mention the penalty from Jason Ford. That was James Owen's goal, says Eugene Lanigan. Liam O'Connor, Flanagan and Ozzy in the full forward line, but Callan will still get one. Right, just for now, I'm going to indulge you with that half forward line. Are we saying nobody from Galway? I don't think anyone's from Galway is in the conversation for the half forward line.
Conor Whelan would have been the only one that could have potentially come into it.
Yeah, and what about Kilkenny then? So Adrian Mullen, he scored, was it 1-3 against Cork? Very good. He's only back from a cruciate, excellent year for him. Billy Ryan scored 4, albeit he was in the full forward line, to be fair. Owen Cody will be in the conversation for the full forward line. Robbie O'Flynn. I think Robbie O'Flynn has more in him. Now, he could be exactly that type of player who has a breakout final and all of a sudden he's mentioned. Jack Prendergast has to be mentioned.
Yeah.
And maybe it didn't quite happen against Limerick the last day. He was one of the guys who was taken out. Stephen Bennett's had some very good performances and then maybe would be looking for a little bit more in some of the other games. Probably not quite going to make the grade. Grode Hegarty has been a little bit quieter. Against Tipperary the first half, that's probably the poorest we've seen him for a long, long time.
If Hegarty comes in and hits 5 or 6 from play in the final, like he's going to win. He'll win an All-Star because it's not as if he's been bad. Like he still had that brilliant pass in for Galan the last day, and I think he was actually turned over. He was turned over in about the 20th minute, and then went and caught the next puck out. And won a free or whatever. So he's been decent. He just hasn't been up to the levels of last year. He's a potential bolter, and as you say, O'Flynn, I'd say, is a potential bolter as well.
Yeah, and then you have the likes of Paddy Purcell, who's very good. He was mentioned already, but he was probably in the forwards a nice bit. Michael Breen did some good stuff for Tipperary. I think we should mention Davy Glennon and maybe the likes of Killian Doyle with Westmeath. They had good years. Mikey Boyle even scoring heavily for Kerry, especially in that Joe McDonough final. I think he scored something like 1-4.
TJ Reid doesn't come into the conversation, Shane, realistically.
I don't think so. No,
he'll get a nomination, I'd say.
Will that be by default?
I don't know if it's by default. He was still good against Wexford. He might not get a nomination.
Yeah. Do you think he deserves a nomination based on what we've talked about here? He scored 4 from play against Wexford, so that was very good and obviously knocked over the freeze. I think as the game wore on against Cork, his influence dropped and Rob Downey began to take over. Over
the rest of the teams, could there be 18 better forwards that played better than him this year? Potentially, yeah. I'd say he's on the borderline. I'd say. Yeah, I'll put it to you this way: Owen Cody will be ahead of him in the pecking order. That's one Kilkenny player.
Adrian Mullen I'd have ahead in the pecking order.
Yeah, Mullen would probably be too. So, our 3 Kilkenny players going to get into that selection? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, when we talked about, Paddy Smith did well in him the last day. Rob Downey did well, and Jerry Millerick did okay in him. Like TJ always has that threat. He caught a couple of balls. He got a point from play. He probably would have had 1 or 2 more if he didn't try and feed the ball to someone else to work scores for them. So it's not that we're saying that he's not still brilliant. He obviously is. But even Matt O'Hanlon had a lot of good moments the first day out in that game. Is there any there's talk here of Stephen Bennett ahead of Malone? Would you have that?
Not based. No, he would have had to have a big semi-final. And while he delivered a couple of huge hits, those three or 4 missed frees. No, I'd be hard pressed to put him in. I think Malone was. Stephen Bennett wasn't at the same level he was at last year, and I think Malone was consistently better. That's not to say he could be edged out after the final, but I think he definitely deserves to be in at the moment.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a bit of moving and shaking here now in a minute when we try and pick the inside forward line. Because we're going to go 13, 14 and 15. And is there anyone that you're thinking can't not name them? I'm just going to put Jack O'Connor's name in here.
No, I think you have to put him in.
What about Tony Kelly?
No, I think Tony misses out this year.
Yeah. On what basis? Because...
I'll put you this way. Who was more consistent for Clare this year in the championship? Like, Cathal Malone was more consistent. And he probably... Cathal Malone may have scored more from play than Tony Kelly in this year's championship.
I'd love to get the thoughts of some Clare folk. And
he's not far off. No, Shane,
Ryan Taylor was very good this year also.
Ryan Taylor was very good too. Like we think Tony Kelly is the best hurler in the country, or in the top 2 anyway. It's not as if we don't. It's just you're based on, you have to go on what you've seen this year. You're not going on a legacy thing. I do think Malone was consistently better. If you're putting Kelly in, like, Kelly will do well find a spot in that inside forward line.
Will Austin Gleeson find a spot? He's been mentioned a few places here. I don't think so.
If you'd said it to me after the quarterfinals, I thought he would have definitely been in. But he had a very, very quiet semi-final.
Yeah, I think we both agree. Like, brilliant player, and I want to pump him into that top 10 hurlers, and we'll have that debate very soon again. Like, that's a moving thing all the time. Well, even as a dub, I'd be surprised if we won any All-Stars. Rush, Sutcliffe, etc. played very well this year, but you need a consistent run and to go deep in the championship to get in reality. that is very fair. I mean, like Benny Sutcliffe had some brilliant games, go all the way back to the Antrim Championship clash. I think Flanagan and O'Connor definitely in the full forward line. Third place is up for debate. Patrick Corrigan going to be an all-star, asks Jamie Wallace.
Just on the Flanagan one, Flanagan has to be a cert. Flanagan has taken his form to a different level, I'd say, since last year. Even it was probably harshly left out even last year by us as well. But his consistency this year has been savage. Like what they have 4 from play the last day. He's just contributing, 3 to 4 scores every day from play.
So nice little comment in here from Ken Keaveney. Go on, Stapo, you fruit.
He's fairly on the ball, in fairness.
Has to be one Kilkenny in here if Clare get a player in, and Will adds in Owen Cody for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like, are you happy with Flanagan?
I think he's been really good. Yeah, he's been really good. So it's worth throwing. Peter Casey also has been very good. The red card is probably just going to be enough to edge him out. We're looking for reasons there to leave lads out, so we'll probably just take that as our handy little way out of that to narrow.
Flanagan is like Flanagan. No, I don't mean this that Galan has gone off the boiler and like that, but Flanagan is almost the new focal point of the attack in many ways.
I tell you what, a brilliant comment has just come in from Michael O'Callaghan. Unpopular opinion, but if Cork win, Hoggy will win Hurler of the Year. May not necessarily deserve it, but similar to Canning in 17, will get a cause. We'll get it because of the body of his work over the course of the last 10 and probably even 13 years. That's a very fair point. Tis nearly written in the stars, actually.
And if Cork are going to win, he's going to have to play well. So he'll all of a sudden, I don't think he's necessarily an all-star at the moment.
No, he was very poor against Limerick the first day out, and maybe the service wasn't right. But look, he wasn't himself. He missed a penalty, missed a few frees, all that kind of crack. He did score 6 from play against Kilkenny in the All-Ireland semi-final, and that helped them get over the line. And this is like a player who's been on the road for so long. It went all the way to 90-plus minutes. It was probably even close to 100 minutes when you include injury time at the end of all the halves. 6 points from play, All-Ireland semi-final, when everything's on the line. Why would he not be in here when Waterford are basically, beaten with 15 minutes to go, and we're giving it to Seamus Flanagan for, is Flanagan necessarily ahead of Patrick Horgan here?
Oh, I think Flanagan is ahead of Patrick Horgan, yeah. I think he was consistently brilliant across the 3 games.
How can we leave out Owen Cody?
I never said we had to leave him out, yeah.
We have to leave someone out.
Jack O'Connor, Seamus Flanagan, and then we'll have a debate for the last spot.
So if Horgan has a good final, does he get an all-star?
If he hits 3 or 4 from play, he's a good chance of getting it. Yeah, this is the thing. Like Cody is, I don't know if Cody's necessarily ahead of him at this moment in time, but Cody can't do anymore. Horgan can parachute himself into the, as our viewer said, into the Hurler of the Year conversation.
Yeah, S. Lowe says Flanagan with a big final is Hurler of the Year territory. Michael Mulcair says Gillan, Flanagan, Casey.
Good man, Mike. Yeah.
Give Keane Lynch Hurler of the Year.
Take off your green and white tinted glasses, even as good a full forward line as they are.
Give Keane Lynch the Hurler of the Year every January. Oh, Keane Lynch has been like we didn't even stop to talk about Keane Lynch.
No,
it's that that is the compliment that we don't even have to. Like we all know he's brilliant, and some people might say, "Oh, you didn't even say that about Keane Lynch." We don't have to. He's just
Shane Waterford played a sweeper the last day to stop Keane Lynch.
So did Tip. Yeah. Like Tipperary picked a man marker in Dan McCormick and brought him all the way back to man marking. Every team now has to plan for him. Ger Millerick played man marked him in the first day out in the Munster semi-final. Now sometimes he stepped off him and Mark Coleman took him up, but they learned that lesson from their league match, and there's going to be a plan for Keane Lynch again in this game. Hoggy has to be there for sure, says Barry Sorensen. A couple of more comments coming in. Silage Mad Flanagan was my man of the match the last day. No option but to give Hoggy an all-star, says Carl Walsh. Flanagan in the running for the Hurler of the Year, unless Keane Lynch can have a good final, Pádraig Crone says, and let's be honest, he probably will have a good final. Stapo nominates Callan for the new, just made up general legend sound fella. Who cares if he had a bad year? All-star. Still got plenty of goals, to be fair. Shane Stapleton, what has Flanagan to do to impress you? He does impress me. And he's been brilliant in most games. He's getting scores from play in most games. A bit like Tom Morrissey. You kind of look back in the game and you go, geez, he scored 4 from play, which is no easy thing to do in hurling. So he is up there. But I think Jack O'Connor can't not be in here. Look at the goals he's scored. The fact that you're just going like this when he gets the ball. I think he has to be in there. I'm not sure anyone would debate that. If anyone out there in the comments wants to, let us know. But somebody's going to have to lose out if Jack O'Connor is going to stay in this team. Now, we can justifiably put Jack O'Connor in the half-forward line if we want, because he did his best stuff against Kilkenny once he moved out there.
But hold on a second now. But who are you saying is losing out? Either Hoggy or Owen Cody?
No, but I'm saying that someone in the half-forward line will lose out because we can justifiably move Jack O'Connor out there.
No, and what, to have a full forward line of Flanagan full forward, Hoggy and Owen Cody, the two corners. Not happy with that, no. Need to put our balls, so to speak, on the block here and pick between either Horgan or Cody.
But that's not where I want to put my balls. Sean Finn, hurler of the year. Cian Lynch, best ginger hurler ever. Just there can't be many that'd be able to keep into him at all. Lads,
Kieran Carey a dash of ginger as well back then.
I don't know, has he quite enough? Kieran,
what about Rod and Dave as well?
Yeah, the Guineas, yeah. Lads, Cian Lynch is a key man in this great Limerick team. He's the star man, the Maradona of this team, has the X factor. To be fair, you couldn't sum it up much better than that.
Very funny, Shane. We were down at the press night and we were kind of waiting around after, just filing a bit of copy in the stands, and all the Limerick players were filtering in, and it was kind of cool. It was as close as you'll get to like seeing what's going on in intercounty.
Oh, Michael Verney's just dropped off there. Jack Nulty says, if Horgan has a good final, he should be in ahead of Cody, but Cody for now, surely. Milan, the best ginger. I've never seen him with a head of hair, so I can't say for sure whether it is ginger. We'll also look at a couple of other comments coming in. Solved. Flanagan, Ozzy, Jack O'Connor. Jack O'Connor, yeah, I think he has to be in there. Shane Kingston in ahead of Cody. This is the interesting thing now, that Shane Kingston could start the final, could end up going to town, and after coming on and getting man of the match with 7 points against Kilkenny, you know, that would be a fair reason to give him an all-star. Horgan played poor against Limerick. That is something that we've talked about. Joe Dean in the corner. John Power go on the ginger. Shefflin is a red.
Sure, of course.
What were we thinking? We weren't thinking.
Hey, come here, back for a second, Shane. I think someone from Limerick cut me off because in case they thought I was going to give away any state secrets. But we were in the Gaelic grounds just filing, a quick little update on the Peter Casey situation. And it was cool to see a rare insight into what actually goes on in intercounty setup, because we just don't see it anymore. So the players were there about 90 minutes before training started, all filtering in. And, Connacht was out setting up his cones and his poles, and Mikey Kiley was doing the same. And all the Limerick lads were arriving in their gear, whatever. And then Cian Lynch lands in a pair of pink shorts and a spearmint green top. And it's just like, some birds just aren't supposed to be caged. And it's like the time Connolly wore that vest when he was a sub in the All-Ireland final, or the time he wore the Leitrim top. There's certain lads you just have to let to go and do their own thing. And by him being that bit of a free spirit, he brings that kind of free spirit nature almost to the match as well, and can just turn things so quickly. And he's such an important player. Interesting, someone said there, like, Kingston is a cert. You know the way in the NBA they do that sixth man of the team, or sixth man of the year. So like Kevin McManaman would have won that for years in football, but like who would win it? Who would have won it in hurling this year? So Kingston is in pole position with Alan Cadigan not far behind, and with another Cork man in Shane Barrett not far behind, because I think he has 1-4 off the bench. And this is why we're saying Cork's bench is so crucial. Like Wally would have had a big influence off the bench for Kilkenny, and even James Bergen and a couple of others up until the All-Ireland semi-final. But Cork would definitely be in the pole position, and that's why we're saying, that's why I'd be somewhat worried from a Limerick point of view about the bench.
Yeah. Comment in here from Pat Walsh. Kevin Hennessy or Brian Whelan, best ginger hurler ever. Hennessy, fastest goal in All-Ireland, 19 seconds. He would have done it in 5 seconds, but he had to turn.
Brian Whelan's hair is an interesting one. He was ginger.
That's quite a sentence.
Yeah, no, but during the 90s, his hair was definitely ginger, and it kind of changed colour over the years. And I don't mean it went grey. It just went more kind of, it's auburn, the colour I'm looking for. It's not necessarily ginger now, but it's definitely a different colour than it was during the 90s anyway. By jizz, there's a fair collection of redheads there when you put it all together, isn't there? Brian Whelan and Henry Shefflin and Cian Lynch, 3 of the best hurlers we will ever see. Is it to be said that redheads are the best hurlers in Ireland? I think
Declan Ryan, the best ginger. Declan Ryan, the left-handed bull of a forward for Tipperary. Some yoke, by.
there's a fair collection of them. I can smell a piece coming. I just hope people don't take it the wrong way.
Yeah,
we should be celebrating juniors. We definitely should be.
Okay, well, back to the team now. We need to finish this thing out. So forward line then: Cathal Malone, Cian Lynch, Tom Morrissey, Owen Cody, Seamus Flanagan, and Jack O'Connor. So that means that some big names have been left out. Obviously, the most goals, Seamus Callanan, of course. Rory O'Connor is not in there.
No.
Let's see, TJ Reid, obviously, we've kind of left out. Patrick Horgan, Ozzie Gleeson, Desi Hutchinson had some good moments. We've kind of said nobody from Galway has particularly floated our boat. So I think we're pretty much happy with that. If anyone else has any comments, get them into us. A couple of the Antrim forwards have definitely done well over this year, and a couple of the likes of PJ Scully, Ross King, they've had good seasons. Even Willie Dunphy and Chad Dwyer. Jake Morris has had some good moments for Tipperary, to be fair. So
Shane, I'm plumping for Cody, I have to say.
Yeah. Okay. So we go with that.
I think he's been brilliant in the 3 games. Huggy could well overtake him, but I think he's been brilliant in the 3 games. He came of age this year, really.
What about Tony Kelly? What he did at full forward against Waterford the first day out, and he has had some good games.
Yeah, it's because of his high standards that we're probably not giving him as much kudos as we should. Just because, he was somewhat quiet against Tip, still had a massive influence. He was somewhat he was quiet in the first half against Cork, but he had a brilliant second half. Maybe we're not giving him enough kudos, to be fair.
Jason Ford isn't a bad old redhead either.
No, Jenny Mac. Yeah, I don't know.
They keep coming. Okay, so we're going to move on from that.
Are we been? Yeah.
I thought we were done now. So let's just go through the team one more time.
Are we underselling what Tony Kelly has done this year?
Well, maybe we are to some degree, and if people have a compelling point to make, get it in. But look, we know that this could change after the final. But I'll run through the team one more time.
Yeah, but Shane, can I just say, our opinion shouldn't change. That's the one thing I'm saying. So if we think after the final, we can't say Tony Kelly deserves an All-Star in hindsight.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Well, look, we'll run through it once more, and maybe something else will spring to mind. Owen Murphy in the goal, Sean Finn, Conor Prunty, and Sean O'Donoghue as the full back line. And we are trying to pick lads in their positions there, so that's something we're not going to pick 2 full backs or 3 cornerbacks, for example. Half back line of Tim O'Mahony. The fact that we barely even debated it shows that that's a cert as far as we're concerned. Mark Coleman. Now maybe you could make a case for a couple more and keep the comments coming in. Kyle Hayes. Midfield of Jamie Byrne and Willow Donahue. Half forward line of Tom Morrissey, Cian Lynch, and Cathal Malone. And a full forward line consisting of Owen Cody, Seamus Flanagan, and Jack O'Connor.
Yeah, leaving out Tony Kelly is tough, to be honest.
Yeah. Owen Cody ahead of Jason Ford, Tony Kelly, and Ozzie is madness. Lads, Barry Nash should be in there, says the treaty men. Verney, stop waffling. It's Limerick and it's the final. Conor Whelan, Conor Whelan, redhead.
Yeah, lads, it's a joke, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So actually, a good point from Patrick Hickey at Clareman. Other Clare players stood up this year, so it was not all about Kelly. So yeah, they were leaning so heavily on him last year. Other players did step up this year.
It wasn't all about him, but he still contributed handsomely in 4 games. Cody was good in 3 games. Yeah, Jenny Mac. I think Kelly is a victim of his own brilliance here.
Yeah, and I feel sorry for Willow Donahue, redhead as well. Most good hurlers are redheads. That seems to be the bottom line at this stage. I'm feeling a bit. I think Patrick Horgan's a little bit hard done by here. He was pretty good against Dublin also. Yeah, it didn't happen for him against Limerick the first day out, but that was some contribution against Kilkenny in the semi-final.
It was a fair contribution. Tony Kelly nearly lifted Clare over the line against Cork.
Yeah, this is the thing. God, it's tough. God, it is tough.
Have we made our bed now at this stage? Have we?
I think we've made our bed. Just one last time. I just want to hear Shane Sabin say, "Go on Limerick on Sunday." Go on, Shane. Do you know what? The truth of it is, I want both teams to lose. No, I'm a Tipperary man. Okay, we'll go through the team one last time here, and I think we're going to stick with it. Murphy, Finn, Prunty, O'Donoghue, Tom O'Mahony, Coleman, Hayes, Byrne and O'Donoghue, Morrissey, Cian Lynch and Malone, and Cody, Flanagan and Jack O'Connor. Look, There's an All-Ireland final there. It might change ever so slightly. But
What's the breakdown, Shane? 2 Kilkenny.
There's a couple of Kilkenny. I should have colour-coded them, let's be honest.
There's Coleman, Donahue, O'Mahony. There's 3 Cork lads. 4 Cork lads, which is fair.
There's 6 Limerick.
1 Clare.
And there's
2 Waterford.
2 Waterford, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough spread on how teams did in the championship. Like the 2 finalists have 10, the 2 semi-finalists have 2 apiece, and 1 quarter-finalist has 1.
Yeah. Michael Clare says Horgan will score nothing in the final. He'll be chasing after Finn. He'll be chasing him the other way. I don't think he'll be on him.
No,
Finn went on them. Jack O'Connor. Well, not all the time, but he seemed to be on him a bit. Pat Collins is a ginger. Richie Power, redhead. My God. Tony will retire as maybe the best hurler of all time, and these are his prime years. Seems a shame he won't get recognised for Brian Lohan, redhead.
Lads.
It's ridiculous. Right, that's our team. Keep your comments coming in. Join the OurGame Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material.